Hello everyone, I am Alyan and today we have very special guest Sir Dan Ulin. Sir Dan Ulin is the founder and CEO of Elite Student Coach, a mentorship program dedicated to empowering polyborn teens for lifelong success with over 35 years of experience, education, communication, and marketing. Sir Dan has guided numerous students to stand out, be heard, and excel in competitive world from teaching creativity, writing, and his academy to co-teaching management at the schools. So welcome sir, and how are you?
I'm great, Alyan. How are you? It's great to see you again.
See you again too sir. Thank you so much sir for coming
My
and
pleasure,
giving your time.
of course.
Thank you so much sir. So before moving on the question, can you please introduce yourself?
Sure. My name's Dan Ulin. I live in Los Angeles, California, and my company is Elite Student Coach. It's a high-ticket mentorship program for exceptional college and graduate school bound kids in the United States, Pakistan, Singapore, Japan, India, and a number of other countries.
All right sir. So what inspired you to start Elite Student Coach?
It's a great question. So I have been working with I've been working with young people since I was young. I started working. I live in Los Angeles now, but I was born in Boston. And when I think I was 12. I think it was 11 or 12 or 13 years old. I think it was about 12. I was teaching magic, card magic, to kids who were 9 and 10 years old in the Boston, Massachusetts evening creative arts program. So I got bitten by the teaching bug early on, and I always loved working with others, with peers, and with other kids. Um, and so over time, although I started my career as an educator, as a teacher, and while I did teach after college at Andover Academy in New England before I moved to Japan, and did some teaching while I was actually at the Wharton School getting my MBA. I was lucky enough to fall into a teaching assistantship that ended up becoming a teaching position when the professor couldn't return. Um, the through line on my work as a marketer and as a communications expert and as an education specialist is, and as an educator, has always been um, on working with young people and empowering young people. And about 12 years ago, when it became increasingly competitive, even more competitive, the numbers sort of spiked up here in the United States to the top 100 schools. It's not just the Ivy League schools; it's the top 100, 150 schools. It became pretty clear that there was a hole in the market, not for somebody who could help kids get into college, because that was really the a byproduct of my program rather than the end product, but for somebody who could, like me, pull together all the things that he or she was passionate about. In my case, education, marketing, entrepreneurship, mentorship, and pull those together in a way that was meaningful and authentic to kids who were applying to colleges and graduate schools in the United States. And so it all fell together at just the perfect time, as sometimes these things do. And I started a lead student coach then.
All right. So sir, can you share a memorable success story from your mentoring experience?
I sure can. I sure can. And I'm going to add, for the benefit of the audience here, because they don't know, that I was lucky enough to meet Alyan and some of the other exceptional kids from the Rehan School in Lahore in January, a couple of months ago, about a month and a half ago. And I'll be coming back to Pakistan in about 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks. And I'm very excited to see you again. So you and I know each other. We haven't let the audience know that yet, but we do. So I will tell you, like, one of my experiences was meeting you and a couple of the other kids from the school in Pakistan. Now, you are not my official mentees. Your families aren't paying me to mentor you, but that was a wonderful representation of that kind of a experience that I'm trying to that I do give to the kids with whom I work. I remember that you asked me, and one of the other people asked me, can you help us with our pronunciation? And I said, I will gladly help you with your pronunciation. Do you remember that, Alina? But you have to teach me something. And you taught me something in Urdu, and my Urdu is just absolutely horrible. My Urdu is just really, really horrible, but I tried. So mentorship is, and we had fun. I think you asked me, sir, and I said, please call me Dan. It's lovely. And you all have just such exceptional manners. It's lovely that you call me sir, but you can just call me Dan. Because while I'm older and while it's lovely that you're polite, I'm just a regular guy like you are. Okay. I may be older, but there's no monopoly on wisdom. We're kind of all at the same level. And you asked me for 5 minutes, and I think we spent what, 2 hours sitting on that couch, you and your fellow students from the Wharton School, and we just had a blast. That's a success story to me, even though you're not applying to college. Um, I felt empowered by the work that I'd done with you. You felt empowered, I hope, by what we did together. We were just laughing and laughing. And I think that humor, education, and growth, those are serious business, but humor is a very important part of the learning process. I think it's really important. So that's one success story. I'll share another one very recently. Here in the United States, it's not as true necessarily for kids who are applying from overseas, although there are scholarships and grants available to kids who are applying from overseas. There's what's called merit-based scholarship money, which means that if you are coming out of an American high school and your grades and your accomplishments are really exceptional, it's not just about getting all A's or top grades. It's about the way that you put your whole package together and the things that you've done and the projects that you've done. And in your case, in the case of the other kids at the Wharton School, these beautiful AI Gen projects that you're putting together in a way that's very genuinely you. Very often, the school or the government or the state or some combination thereof will offer what's called merit-based scholarship money, which is based on your merit and your accomplishments. And then the last year, last 12 months, five of the kids with whom I work have collectively together been awarded just north of $1 million US. I think it's $1.1 million US in merit-based scholarship money. And I consider that a huge success because I'm so proud of them. Just as, even though we only spent a couple of hours together, I was so proud of you. I was so proud of you for stepping up and embracing that discomfort. Yeah. So it's a pride. It's a two-way thing. And I'll probably say this again later in the interview, but for me anyway, mentorship is not just about my being older, you're being younger, my teaching you something and you're walking away with it. There's a feedback loop, a very important feedback loop in that, Alyan. And I think that is where, let's say I was mentoring you, and I will be doing some mentoring work with you and your team of fellow students when I'm back in Karachi next month. When you turn to me and say, "Hey, Dan, everything up to now was good. What you just said, this could be a little bit better for us." And I will say why and how. And when you tell me how I can improve that experience for you, that education, that learning experience for you, that makes me a better mentor for you, number one. And number two, you are able to walk away with that lesson on how to take something from your mentee and take it forward. Because I think the ability not just to generate wonderful AI images or edit video, or in your case, you're a Fiverr walla to generate great projects on Fiverr. It's not just about doing that. You have to be able to, in order to be incredibly successful, I think, be able to lean into understandings and misunderstandings with people who are like you and not like you at all. Because in forming those bonds and creating those emotional connections, that makes you even more AI proof, right? Number one, it makes the experience a lot more fun, and it separates you from all the other people who are doing exactly the same thing. Because there are going to be many millions of people out there who are doing digital photography and AI and editing. But if you can add that layer of the ability to communicate and have active listening, and to communicate on paper and in person, and that will add two more zeros or three more zeros depending on your currency, or four more zeros depending on your currency, to your earning power, and it will also help you stand out. And I think ultimately great marketing, and we're all in the business of marketing ourselves, is about being first, better, or different. And we're not going to be the first. You're not going to be the first digital marketer. I'm certainly not the first mentor. So first is kind of off the table. There are very few firsts left. Coca-Cola was a first. There are some firsts. Better, I don't know. What's better, Coke or Pepsi? Sometimes better is in the eye of the beholder, but you can always be different. And I will tell you, Sir Alyan, you are very different. And when you are different, that is something that nobody can take away from you. And that's where customers and clients will seek you. So that's kind of a long answer to your question. If it's not clear already, I love what I love what I do so much. And these interviews are a great way to communicate that, and also to get back in touch with my wonderful folks in Pakistan, a country I've really come to embrace a lot over the last couple of months.
Wonderful, sir, and thank you so very much for your kind words. All right. So, sir, tell me what's your approach to mentoring apart from others?
Yeah, another great question. So in my program, there are kind of three supporting pillars, like three supporting sort of structures underneath it. And again, with the idea that getting into college, or even more so, even more now, I'm working with kids who are going from college into graduate school, graduate engineering school, medical school, what have you. There are three supporting pillars of that. One is that I help the kids with whom I work become master communicators, in person, on paper, to learn to communicate within themselves, um, cultivate emotional intelligence, learn how to negotiate, um, etc. Again, I think that's a critical skill to be able to have, and that's one that develops over time. Mastery is a lifelong process. I'm older, and I'm you know inshallah, I'll continue to get I'll continue to get older, but I'll be learning until the day I pass, and that's a wonderful thing. When I was younger, I thought, well, when I get to this point, I'll have learned everything I need, and then everything will be perfect. And one of the things I've learned as I grow is that it never ends. Like, the learning process is never ending. Okay, so that's pillar number one, is communications. Pillar number two is that I help the kids, I empower the kids with whom I work to understand, to learn and understand and become masters of entrepreneurship. I think the ability to be an entrepreneur, which all of you are learning at the Rayhan School, but again is a lifelong process. Here in the United States is something that is not taught. Even if you go to an undergraduate business school like a Wharton or a Babson in Boston, or a Stern in New York, that's not taught until you get to your second year of college. And if you can get that when you're young, when you're 12 or 13 or 14 or 15 years old, that gives you such a long runway to develop and enhance and unpack those skills over time. So pillar number two is entrepreneurship. And pillar number three, I'm holding up three fingers. Pillar number three is is helping the kids with whom I work learn how to mentor. I am mentoring my mentees. And we talked about this before. The ability to mentor others, the ability to communicate well, communicate beautifully, and with impact and with emotional resonance, and the ability to understand and take joy in the entrepreneurial journey. Those are AI proof, and AI is here to stay. And AI is magical and it's wonderful, but it will never take the place. It will never take the place of that emotional connection between human beings. And so it's AI proof. It's monetizable. All three skills, when combined with AI and the things that you're doing, are very monetizable. And they're just not taught in educational institutions. Schools are not set up in most countries, and this includes Pakistan. And I say this with the greatest love and respect for the school system in Pakistan and the United States and other parts of Asia and Europe and Latin America, etc. Schools are not set up to teach these skills to students. Schools are taught to teach subjects. And in many cases, they do that very well. In the same way, colleges and universities are not set up to teach their students, once they're admitted, how to go about looking for jobs or how to interview, or in fact, they're not taught this is how companies actually hire students. So I try to give the students with whom I work, and again, you are still my mentees, I hope, even though, are you my mentee? Is that okay? Are you a mentee of mine? That's a question.
Um, yeah, maybe.
Maybe it's okay. We'll find out. I'm not asking you to pay anything, but maybe I'll get lucky and you'll become a mentee of mine. It would be my privilege and my honor to mentor you. But the mentees with whom I work, to give you an unfair advantage, and that unfair advantage is based on the ability to communicate, the ability to lean into entrepreneurial skills, and the ability to mentor others. And you have those, and you go from exceptional to unstoppable. And I think, to be honest, you and the other students at the Rayhan School are already well on your way.
Awesome, sir. So, what advice do you have for the student preparing for college interviews?
Yeah. So I think it's important to understand that when they are interviewing for college, in most cases, they're going to interview with alumni, people who have gone to that college before. And when it comes to interviewing with alumni, and in some cases, they will interview with admissions officers from that school. You don't always interview. Um, Not every school offers interviews, but very often they will offer them. And usually they will offer them at the very last minute. So you want to be prepared. What they're looking for the most part in interviews, they're not looking for you to demonstrate competence or to demonstrate, why you deserve to get into that school. At that point, they've made the decision that you are good quality material for that school. What they're looking for is, are you who are you? Like, what is your character like? And what is it going to be like, not if, but when you are on campus? So let's say, Alyan, that you're applying to an American school. Let's say that you're applying to, I don't know, Northwestern in Chicago. And somebody from Northwestern, an alumni from Northwestern, one of the alumni from Northwestern decides to interview you. What he or she will be looking for is, like, who are you, Alyan? Like, what are you like, and what's your character? And when you're on campus, what's it going to be like when something that you're really good at? When it comes to teaching Fiverr or teaching digital marketing to somebody who doesn't understand that, what's it going to be like when somebody who doesn't understand that reaches across the aisle in the classroom and asks you for help? And at the same time, when maybe something that you are not as strong as, when you are vulnerable and when you need assistance, when you are able to reach across and need help, how is that going to show up? They're looking for all the things that don't show up on paper or on the computer screen. What's it going to be like when you are there? Because ultimately, what they're trying to build is a group of students, a 2 or 3 thousand students, or 5,000 students, or 500 students, whatever the number is that they take for that incoming class, who work together really, really well. And so I think the best advice I can give people when they're going into interviews is relax, um, ask good questions. Do not ask questions that could be answered from the website. Don't ask, what kinds of things do they teach at school, but ask questions of the interviewer. What was your experience like there? My perception as the person who is applying is that the school is like this. But what was it like when you, the alumnus, went to that school? Um, if you can come across as real and authentic, and please smile, smile for the interview, and have a good time, that improves your chances 500-600%. And that's the answer to that question.
So, sir, what do you think are the most important qualities for a successful college applicant?
Yeah, another great question, and it comes back to the comment that I made about marketing, because we are all in business, even if we are not entrepreneurs per se. We're all in the business of being who we are. So somebody who is if you're a student in high school or middle school, your business, your job is student. That is your job. And if you are already a professional, if you're a doctor or you're an attorney or you are an engineer, your job is to be, Alyan Favarwala, among all other things. And in doing that, you need to be able to market yourself as being very different. So I think the most successful qualities, or the qualities of a successful college applicant, somebody who is able to gain admission to schools to which they feel that they're a really great fit, with the understanding that you I believe that you should see it's to your advantage to see yourself, when you're applying to schools, as much the buyer as the seller. And by that I mean, don't approach the school, whether it's a UCLA or a Harvard or a University of Pennsylvania, where I went for my undergraduate, or Wharton, where I went for my MBA. Don't approach them thinking, "Oh, please, I hope you take me." Of course, you hope that they will take you, but you, as a young person, pardon me, have so many things to offer that school. And when you understand that the school is looking for people like you, it becomes the kind of experience in a transaction where, yes, I do hope that you take me, but I have a great deal to give you as well. That levels the playing field. That changes the dynamic of the application process and the psychology behind that. So I would say that that's probably the most important thing. The other thing is that when you're crafting your college narrative, and the narrative consists of the essays that you write and the description of the activities as well as the letters that come in from your teachers. Usually, most schools here in the United States and some schools overseas will ask for 2 letters from teachers and 1 from your guidance counselor. Those letters should not be, let's just say again, you were applying, should not say, Alyan is awesome. He's great. He's a really smart student and he got all A's. Those letters don't really mean much because everybody applying has got great grades and great test scores. On the other hand, if they say something like, when Alyan started this class, he was a pretty strong student, but the way he became an even stronger student was the way that he was able to be of service to other students in the class and the way that he was able to lean into areas where he felt vulnerable. And based on what I saw as his teacher in calculus, for example, I can see that character of humility and that understanding that he always is open to learning is going to make him incredibly successful as a college applicant. So that's why I strongly recommend him. A letter like that can make the difference between a deny or an admit, because what's it showing? It's a window into who you are and your character as a young man. And that again is something that you would think all college applicants are doing. Very few do that. And the last thing is that as early as possible, I mean, whether it's 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, and if you're not really thinking about it, okay, 11th grade, start what they call a passion project. I think the term passion project is too widely used, but start a project doing something that is meaningful to you. It doesn't have to be something that you think will impress the college. Please don't do something that you hope will impress the college. They have lots of people applying who they hope will impress. So if you don't worry about creating a invisible thought powered AI car that can go 1,000 miles an hour, if you do that, that's pretty cool. It could be something as simple as what you did with me, what you're doing right now. Alyan, became a master interviewer by interviewing 300 people. And in interviewing other people, I also learned to be a better interviewee. And I also learned that people love to tell their stories. And that was my project. And I'll tell you, I've read thousands and thousands of applications, not just from the people with whom I work now, but when I was an undergraduate at the University of Pennsylvania, studying creative writing a long time ago, and then years later getting my master's my MBA, and then years later after that, earning my master's in clinical psychology here in California at Antioch University, because I practiced in mental health for a long time, and I did some admissions work at each of those schools. You don't see projects like that very often. You see a lot of projects that are designed to impress, and that's fine. I mean, if you started building robots when you're 3 years old, that's cool. But projects that just speak to who you are and what it's going to be like to have you as a human being exploring and contributing to that campus, those punch through the clutter in a very different and more impactful way, I think, than hey, let's do this to impress the school. That would be my advice right now.
It's a wonderful, sir. So my last question is, what impact do you hope to have on your student life?
I want to say these are fantastic questions, and by extension, all of the questions I'm getting from the young people at the Wharton School are incredibly impressive questions. And you know me well enough by now. Wharton certainly knows me well enough to know by now I don't give compliments for the sake of giving compliments. I don't think that's useful. So I'm telling you this very genuinely. These are pro level questions that if you are a journalism student or a communications major at a prestigious school in the United States, you wouldn't be asking these questions until you were a sophomore in school. So you are 5 or 6 or 7 years ahead of the crowd. So I congratulate you on that. Here's the impact that I hope to have on their lives. I hope that they will always be curious. And there's a saying, ABC, in sales here: always be closing, always be trying to close that deal and get that money from the client. My ABC is always be curious. Always be curious about, well, what if we tried this? Or tell me more about that when you're interviewing somebody. Always be curious. That curiosity is like a nuclear engine. It's like a rocket fuel. If you are curious about yourself and about other people's lives, that opens doors in a way that is, no pun intended, just magical. So always, always, always be curious. That would be one. Two would be try to lean into the things that make you most uncomfortable. Now, we all have our zones of comfort. You are a master interviewer. You're great at digital marketing. I've seen your work. It's fantastic. But there may be things that you're not confident about. I won't ask you in this interview, but let's just say a young person is not confident self-advocating. Maybe, and by that I mean, let's say that they want to get a research position with a professor in the first year of college. They may not feel, excuse me, confident with the understanding that confidence shows up in a lot of different ways about approaching that professor and saying, "Hey, Professor Alyan, uh, I'd really like to work with you. And I realize that I'm 2 years ahead of when most people come to you. Um, and I will tell you that this is a little scary to ask because you're a very famous professor and I'm a little intimidated by you. But I want to be open about the fact that I am. And here's the real secret sauce for this, and I'll give you a pro tip. Most students, if they do this, and very few students will do this, here's the mistake they will make. They will start by saying, I want to work for you. Can you give me a position? That doesn't work very well. Here's a much better way to make that happen. It's what I call, and what many people have called, this is not an original idea on my part, the one-page business plan. And the one-page business plan, my interpretation of it is it literally one page, and it has two paragraphs, well, three paragraphs. The first paragraph is, my name is Alyan. You've never heard of me, but I am in your class and I'm enjoying your class. It's paragraph one. Paragraph two is, I'm young and I haven't done a lot of work in this field, but let's say you are pre-med and you're applying for a research position in a laboratory. You can say something like, I haven't done a lot of laboratory work, but I know how to wash out lab equipment really well. I'm really good at dishwashing and I will wash that lab equipment really well. And if you see even one spot, I want you to tell me because I want to do a better job. And if you're not happy, please fire me as quickly as possible. Now, what does that have? That has humor and it has humility. And what professor is not going to look at that and go, wow, like this is pretty awesome. And then in paragraph three, you say, and if this works for you, will you give me the opportunity to start 1 or 2 years in advance? Because I can guarantee you that the way that I do this is the way that I do everything. I think in life, the way that people do one thing is the way they do everything. When they commit to showing up on time, like you did today, like the way that I did, that's kind of the way they do everything. You are on it. Like you are on it. You're not going to be the kind of person who says, I'm going to show up at, well, what was 11 o'clock Los Angeles time and a.m. Los Angeles time and 11 p.m. Pakistan time. You're not going to show up at 11:30 or 12 o'clock. Time is valuable. When a professor sees you or a teacher sees you showing up that way, what they say to themselves is, my gosh, if Alyan is showing up this way now, this is how he is now as a freshman, I can only imagine what he's going to be like a year and a half from now when the real work begins. And what that does is it compresses time. It puts you way ahead of other kids and gives you the opportunity very often to be a co-author on an academic paper or to take a graduate school level class maybe 2 years ahead of time when you're a junior as opposed to when you're in graduate school. So it's all for me about trying to compress time for the kids with whom I work and give them the advantage of the time that I've seen. I've said this in other interviews, but I'll say it again because I think it's important. We are taught that the shortest distance between 2 points is a line from point A to point B, or depending on how you're looking at the screen, point A, you're pointing to point B. But it's not. It's about folding space. And I said this when I was at Future Fest in Lahore. If you can fold space, if you can take the advantage of somebody like me who has gone through a lot of experiences and had a lot of learning opportunities, I don't think there are any mistakes. I think mistakes are only learning opportunities. And if I can compress those down for you and the younger people and give you the advantage of those so that you have the choice of saying, I would prefer to use that learning opportunity so that I can get 15 or 20 or 30 years ahead of somebody like Dan, that gives you an incredible advantage. And that makes me super proud of you. That makes you super proud of yourself. And then you can pass that pride on to the other people with whom you work. I think we are memory-making creatures. I think that we are here to make a positive impact on the lives of others and on this planet. And with that philosophy in mind, with the idea that money and success, financial success and business success follow and swim in the wake of doing meaningful work that helps out the lives of others and empowers others, that's a winning combination. So that's what I try to give to my students. And for the most part, that's been successful. But it's been something that I've learned over time and continue to learn with the help of people like you and the other students at the Wharton School. So there you go.
It's a wonderful and awesome. So thank you, sir Dan, for sharing your inspiring journey and valuable insight with us. Your dedication to empowering college born dreams is truly commendable, and your vast experience in education, communication, and marketing shines through in your mentorship. So thank you so much, sir, for your valuable time, and excited to meet you again in April. Thank you so
I'm
much,
very
sir.
excited to meet you and your colleagues and the other people and the administrators and the teacher and the headmaster and Rayhan and everybody else at at the Rayhan School in Karachi in just a few weeks' time, and to perhaps teach you and mentor you on some things, and in turn to be taught and mentored from you in some other things. You know, this is a voyage of discovery, and I'm really excited about it. Thank you for your time. I hope this was benefit to you and to your audience, and I look forward to more. You know, inshallah, there will be more. I hope I'm using inshallah correctly. I'm trying.
Inshallah, sir. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you so much, man. I'll see you. I'll see you, and I'll see everybody here again. Talk soon.